Princess Zarathis stood on her palace balcony, watching the twin suns set over the crystal spires of her capital city. Her blue skin shimmered in the fading light, marking her as royal blood of the Velthari Empire. She ruled 17 star systems, commanded fleets that could destroy planets, and her word was law across 1 trillion subjects. Yet none of that mattered as much as the human sitting in her garden below. Marcus Chun looked so small among the giant flowering trees, sketching in his notebook like he did every evening. His brown hair caught the last rays of sunlight as he worked, completely absorbed in capturing the beauty of an alien flower. Zara smiled. When she had married him 6 months ago, her advisors called it political madness. A princess of the divine Velthari marrying a primitive human? It was unthinkable, but Marcus had charmed her from their first meeting. He was nothing like the warriors and nobles who usually sought her hand. He loved art, wrote poetry, and asked endless questions about everything he saw. His wonder at their advanced civilization was genuine and touching. While other species feared the Velthari Empire, Marcus marveled at its beauty. "Your Highness," came a voice behind her. Zara turned to see Captain Velcor, head of palace security. His forearms were crossed in formal attention, but his expression was troubled. "What is it, Captain?" "The High Council requests your immediate presence. There has been another incident." Zara's heart sank. For the past 3 months, colonies throughout the Empire had reported strange problems. Defense systems failing without warning. Communication networks going dark. Trade ships disappearing. The Council was growing paranoid. Seeing enemies everywhere. She followed Captain Velcor through corridors, lined with living crystal that pulsed with soft light. The High Council chamber was a vast dome where 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered. At the center stood the holographic projection of General Kethara, Zara's sister. "Princess," Kethara's voice was cold. "We have a problem." The hologram shifted to show star charts. Red markers indicated failed colonies. "Look at the pattern, sister." Every system that has suffered these mysterious failures had one thing in common. Human ships were detected nearby just before each incident. Zara felt a chill run through her. That proves nothing. Human traders go everywhere now since first contact. Do they? Elder Thulmet stepped forward, his ancient face grave. "These were not traders, Princess. Military vessels, using stealth technology we barely detected. They arrive, observe, and leave just before our systems fail." The projection changed again, showing ship designs. Zara recognized them immediately. Marcus had asked her about Velthari defense systems months ago, claiming academic curiosity. He had been particularly interested in the exact specifications now displayed before her. "Furthermore," continued the elder, "our God Emperor grows weaker. Omnarch Thulvanos has ruled us for 3,000 years, sustained by the spiritual energy of our people. But now, entire populations report feeling spiritually empty. They can no longer provide the cosmic power our divine ruler requires." Zara's mind raced. Marcus had also asked about their religious practices, about how their people connected to the Omnarch. She had thought it was sweet curiosity about her faith. "You cannot seriously suspect Marcus," she said, though doubt crept into her voice. "He is a cultural ambassador. He spends his days painting flowers and writing poetry." "Does he?" General Kethara's image leaned forward. "Our intelligence reports show he has held private meetings with your personal guards, your advisors, even members of your household staff. Meetings he never mentioned to you." Zara's blood went cold. Marcus had never mentioned any such meetings. She thought she knew his schedule completely. "Princess," Elder Thulmat's voice was gentle but firm. "We are not accusing your husband, but we must investigate. Too much is at stake. If the Omnarch continues to weaken, our entire empire could collapse, Our divine protection would be gone. The meeting continued for another hour, but Zara barely heard it. Her mind kept returning to small moments with Marcus. How he always seemed to know his way around the palace, even in sections he had supposedly never visited. How he sometimes used technical terms that a simple cultural ambassador would not know. How he occasionally paused before answering simple questions, as if choosing his words very carefully. After the meeting, Zara walked slowly back to her quarters. She found Marcus in their shared study, reading from her personal library. He looked up and smiled, and for a moment her doubts vanished. This gentleman could not possibly be a threat to anyone. "How was your meeting?" he asked, setting down the book. "You look troubled." "Just empire business," she said, sitting beside him. "Marcus, you have never mentioned meeting with my staff." Something flickered in his eyes, so brief she almost missed it. "Your staff?" "I don't understand." "Captain Velcor says you have been speaking privately with several people in the palace." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Oh, that. Yes, I sometimes chat with the guards, ask about their families. The servants have been kind to me. I hope that is not a problem." His explanation was reasonable, but something felt wrong. The pause before answering. The careful phrasing. Zara had lived in a royal court all her life. She knew when someone was being truthful, and this did not feel like complete truth. "Of course not," she said. "I was just curious." That night, Zara lay awake beside her sleeping husband. She studied his peaceful face in the moonlight. This man had somehow become the center of her world in just 6 months. She had never loved anyone the way she loved Marcus Chen. The thought that he might be deceiving her was almost unbearable. But duty to her people came first. She had to know the truth. The next morning, Zara made a decision that broke her heart. She would investigate her own husband. If Marcus was innocent, she would clear his name and silence the council's suspicions forever. If he was not innocent, she could not finish that thought as she watched Marcus sketch another flower in their garden. Zara wondered if she was about to discover that the love of her life was her enemy. The gentle human who wrote her poetry and marveled at alien sunsets might be the greatest threat her empire had ever faced. The investigation would begin today. Whatever the truth, she had to find it, even if it destroyed everything she held dear. Zara spent 3 days accessing files she had never needed to see before. Military intelligence reports, colony security logs, and shipping manifests filled her private screens as she worked alone in her secured office. Each piece of evidence made her stomach twist tighter. The pattern was undeniable. Human vessels appeared in star systems exactly when Marcus had asked her specific questions about those regions. When he had inquired about the defense platforms around Kepler-7, she thought it was casual conversation over dinner. 3 weeks later, all orbital defenses around Kepler-7 mysteriously failed. When he asked about the psychic resonance networks on Vega Prime, she had explained them proudly, thinking he was interested in her people's spiritual technology. A month later, Vega Prime reported complete spiritual disconnection from the Almnarch. The worst part was how natural their conversations had felt. Marcus never pushed for information. He asked questions like someone genuinely curious about her world, her culture, her people. But now, reviewing the timing, every innocent question had been followed by disaster. Zara pulled up the technical specifications Marcus had requested. He had claimed he wanted to write a cultural essay about Velthari engineering marvels. She had given him detailed plans of their most sensitive systems, proud to share her people's achievements. Those same specifications now appeared in intelligence reports as the exact systems that had failed across 17 colonies. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry. Zara quickly closed her files as Marcus entered, carrying a tray of tea. "You have been working very hard," he said, setting the tray on her desk. I thought you might need refreshment. She looked at him carefully. Really looked. His brown eyes held their usual warmth, but was there something else behind them? A calculation she had never noticed before? Marcus, she said slowly, tell me about the Kepler-7 system. Kepler-7? He tilted his head thoughtfully. That is the mining colony, correct? You mentioned it produces rare crystals for your temple construction. What else do you remember about our conversation? Marcus paused. It was barely a second, but Zara caught it. We discussed the orbital platforms, I think. You explained how they protect the mining operations from asteroid collisions. She had never told him about asteroid collisions. The platforms were defense systems, not mining protection. But somehow Marcus knew about the mining operations in detail that she had never shared. How did you know about the mining? She asked quietly. Another pause. You must have mentioned it, my love. We have talked about so many things. Zara felt cold. She was certain she had never discussed Kepler-7's mining operations with anyone outside the military council. It was classified information. Marcus, I need to ask you something important. She stood up, facing him directly. Have you been in contact with other humans since coming here? Other humans? His expression was perfectly confused. Darling, you know, I am the only human cultural ambassador to the Volthari Empire. Who would I contact? I do not know. That is what I am asking. Something flickered across his face again. That micro-expression she was starting to recognize. It appeared whenever she asked questions that touched on sensitive topics. Zara, is something wrong? You seem upset. Several of my people think you might be involved in the colony problems. Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Me? Involved in military problems? I can barely operate your communication devices, let alone sabotage space stations. Another lie. Zara had watched Marcus use their technology with ease that suggested much more familiarity than he claimed. He navigated their computer systems like someone who had been studying them for years, not months. May I see your personal quarters? She asked suddenly. My quarters? Of course, but why? I want to see your things from Earth. Photos of your family, personal items. I realize I know very little about your life before coming here. The pause was longer this time. I do not have many personal items. The journey was long, and I could only bring essentials. They walked together to Marcus's private rooms. Zara had been here before, but never really examined the space carefully. Now she looked with new eyes. The rooms were comfortable but impersonal. No photos, no mementos, no personal touches that would indicate a life lived elsewhere. It was like a hotel room occupied by someone passing through. Where are your letters from family? She asked. Messages from friends on Earth? Earth communications take months to reach here, Marcus said. And my family, they were not happy about me coming so far away. What are their names? My family? Marcus went very still. Why do you need to know that? I am your wife. I should know your family's names. My parents are dead, he said quickly. I have no siblings. Zara stared at him. In 6 months of marriage, he had never mentioned that his parents were dead. She had asked about his family many times, and he had always changed the subject. She had thought he was homesick. Now she wondered if he had ever had a family at all. Marcus, who are you really? I am your husband, he said, stepping closer and taking her hands. I am the man who loves you more than anything in the universe. Why are you asking these questions? His touch was warm and familiar. For a moment, looking into his eyes, Zara almost forgot her suspicions. This was Marcus, who held her when she had nightmares, who made her laugh with his attempts to understand Volthari humor, who wrote poetry comparing her beauty to Earth sunsets. But then she remembered the failed colonies, the dying god emperor. and the impossible coincidences. I need time to think, she said, pulling away. I am going to visit my sister on the command ship. I will come with you. No. The word came out sharper than intended. I need to go alone. She left Marcus standing in his empty quarters and walked quickly toward the palace communications center. As she went, she made a decision that terrified her. She was going to have her husband secretly monitored. Every movement, every communication, every action would be recorded. If Marcus Chen was innocent, the surveillance would prove it. If he was not innocent, she would discover what her gentle, poetry-writing husband was really doing in her empire. That night, Zara activated the security protocols herself, using codes that even Marcus would not know existed. Hidden sensors throughout the palace would now track his every move. Communications monitors would record any signals sent or received. Palace guards would follow him at a distance wherever he went. She felt like she was betraying everything she believed about love and trust. But she was also a princess of the Velthari Empire, and her duty to her people came before her personal feelings. As she lay alone in her bed for the first time since her wedding, Zara wondered if she would still have a husband by tomorrow night, or if she would discover that Marcus Chun was the enemy they had been searching for all along. The monitoring began at dawn. The coded transmission was discovered on the second day of surveillance. Captain Velcor brought the encrypted data to Zara personally, his expression grim as he handed her the crystal data chip. The signal originated from your husband's personal communicator, he said quietly. It was sent at 0347 hours while you were sleeping. Our technicians have broken the encryption. Zara's hand shook as she inserted the chip into her private terminal. The decoded message appeared on her screen, and her world collapsed around her. The transmission contained detailed schematics of Velthari psychic resonance networks. These were the sacred systems that connected every citizen to their god emperor, allowing spiritual energy to flow across the galaxy to sustain Omnarch Thulvanos. The plans showed not just how the networks functioned, but their exact weaknesses. Red markers indicated critical nodes that, if disabled, would sever entire star systems from the psychic grid. Every red marker corresponded to a colony that had recently gone dark. Who received this message? Zara asked, though she dreaded the answer. The signal was directed toward the outer rim, beyond our territory. We believe it reached human space, but we cannot determine the exact recipient. Zara stared at the plans, recognizing her own explanations to Marcus, transformed into a blueprint for destroying her empire. She had trusted him with sacred knowledge, and he had weaponized it against her people. There is more, Captain Velcor continued reluctantly. The surveillance you ordered has revealed other disturbing activities. Your husband has been accessing restricted areas of the palace using security codes that should not exist in his clearance level. What areas? The Imperial Archives, the Military Communications Center, and last night, the Royal Vault containing backup copies of all psychic resonance data. Each revelation felt like a physical blow. Marcus had not just been gathering intelligence during their conversations. He had been actively stealing secrets from the most secure locations in the palace. I want to confront him immediately, Zara said. Princess, perhaps it would be wiser to continue surveillance. To discover the full extent of his network? No. Zara stood up, her decision made. I need to hear the truth from him directly. She found Marcus in their garden, sketching as always. But now his peaceful routine looked like an elaborate performance. How many times had he sat here, pretending to draw flowers while actually planning her empire's destruction? Marcus, she called. He looked up and smiled, but the expression seemed different now, calculating. Good morning, my love. You left early today. We need to talk. Something in her tone made him set down his sketchbook. Of course. What about? Zara activated a privacy shield around them, ensuring their conversation could not be overheard. Then she threw the data chip at his feet. "Explain this." Marcus looked down at the chip, and for the first time since she had known him, his careful mask slipped completely. The gentle, confused expression vanished. His brown eyes became hard and focused, like a predator calculating its next move. "Where did you get that?" His voice was different too. Still Marcus, but colder, more controlled. "You transmitted it 2 nights ago. It contains classified information about our psychic networks. Information I gave you because I trusted you." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he looked up, Zara barely recognized the man she had married. The gentle poet was gone, replaced by someone whose presence commanded the space around him with quiet authority. "You have been monitoring me," he said. It was not a question. "Answer me, Marcus. What is that transmission?" "Intelligence data sent to my handlers." The casual admission hit her like a physical blow. "Your handlers?" "I am Commander Marcus Chen, Terran Vanguard, Deep Operations Division. I have been monitoring your empire for 18 months, married to you for 6 of them." Zara felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. "You are a spy. Among other things, how much of it was lies? Our marriage, your feelings, everything." Marcus stood up slowly, and she could see the soldier beneath the artist now. His movements were too precise, too controlled. This was someone trained for combat, not someone who spent his days sketching flowers. "The mission parameters were clear," he said. "Infiltrate the royal family, assess the threat level of the Omnarch, and eliminate key psychic conduits if necessary." Eliminate. The words stuck in her throat. "You mean murder?" "I mean neutralize threats to human survival. We are not threats. We welcomed humans into our empire. You welcomed us into a trap." Marcus's voice carried conviction that terrified her. "The Omnarch is not a benevolent god-emperor, Zara. He is a psychic parasite that feeds on the consciousness of entire species. Every race absorbed into your empire has become spiritually dependent, gradually losing their free will, their creativity, their individual identity. That is not true, isn't it? When did your people last produce new art, new music, new literature that was not directly inspired by the Omnarch's divine guidance? When did any citizen last disagree with imperial policy? Your entire civilization has become a spiritual battery farm." Zara wanted to argue, but doubts crept into her mind. It was true that their culture had become more uniform over the centuries, more focused on serving their god-emperor's vision. But that was religious devotion, not mental slavery. "Even if that were true, it does not justify what you have done," she said. "The colonies that have gone dark, the people cut off from spiritual connection, they are suffering because of you. They are being freed." "Freed?" "They feel empty, lost, disconnected, because they have been addicted to psychic dependence for generations." Marcus stepped closer, and she could see genuine emotion in his eyes for the first time since she had confronted him. "Zara, we are not destroying your people. We are trying to save them. By lying to me? By using me?" Marcus went very still. "That was not supposed to happen." "What?" "I was not supposed to fall in love with you." His voice was quieter now, almost vulnerable. "The mission called for me to eliminate you 6 months ago. You were one of the strongest psychic conduits to the Omnarch. Your death would have significantly weakened him." Zara felt cold and hot at the same time. "You were sent to kill me." "Yes, but you did not." "No. Why?" Marcus looked at her for a long moment, and she saw the man she had fallen in love with struggling against the soldier he really was. "Because somewhere between the intelligence gathering and the mission parameters, I realized that I could not live in a universe without Princess Zarathis in it." He stepped closer. "Everything else was a lie, Zara, but not that. Never that. Zara stared at the man she thought she knew, the man she had trusted with everything, the enemy who claimed he loved her enough to betray his own mission. What happens now? She whispered. Now, Marcus said, we find out whether love is stronger than duty. For both of us. The Imperial summons arrived at dawn, delivered by a messenger whose hands trembled as he spoke. Omnarch Thilvanos commanded the immediate presence of every royal family member and high-ranking official in the Empire. The divine gathering would take place on the sacred moon of Velthara in 3 days. He has never called for such a gathering, Zara said, reading the official decree. Not in 3,000 years. Marcus studied the summons with professional interest. He's desperate. Our intelligence indicates his psychic power has dropped to critical levels. This gathering is his attempt to drain everyone at once. Drain them how? Directly. From their life, force, if necessary. Marcus's expression was grim. If he succeeds, he might kill every important person in your empire, but he would gain enough power to locate and destroy every human agent. Zara felt sick. We have to warn them. We have been warning them. Marcus activated his hidden communication device, revealing technology far more advanced than anything the Velthari possessed. For the past 6 months, human agents have been introducing psychic dampening fields throughout your empire. They are disguised as medical treatments, infrastructure improvements, even entertainment devices. What do? They gradually restore cognitive independence. Most of you people have been living under low-level psychic influence for their entire lives, making them compliant and spiritually dependent. The dampening fields break that connection slowly, allowing natural free will to return. As if to prove his point, Captain Velcor burst into the chamber without following proper protocol. Princess, forgive the intrusion, but I must speak with you immediately. Zara stared. Her security chief had never entered without permission before. He had always followed formal procedures exactly. Now he looked agitated, urgent, and somehow more alive than she had ever seen him. Captain, what is wrong? Everything, Your Highness. I have been reviewing the Imperial summons, and something feels terribly wrong about it. For the first time in my career, I am questioning a direct order from the Omnarch. He paused, looking confused by his own words. I do not understand why I feel this way, but every instinct tells me this gathering is a trap. Marcus and Zara exchanged glances. The psychic dampening had worked. Captain Velcor was thinking independently, perhaps for the first time in his adult life. Captain, Marcus said carefully, what if I told you that your instincts are correct? I would ask what you know about it, human. Marcus made a decision that could cost them everything. I am Commander Marcus Chun, Terran Military Intelligence. For the past 18 months, human agents have been working to free your people from psychic manipulation. The Omnarch is not a god. He is a parasite that has been feeding on your civilization for 3 millennia. Captain Velcor should have arrested Marcus immediately. Instead, he listened. And as Marcus explained the truth about their god emperor, Zara watched her security chief's expression change from confusion to understanding to rage. You are saying that everything we believe is a lie? Not everything. Your people, your culture, your achievements are all real. But your worship of the Omnarch has been forced upon you through psychic conditioning. You were never meant to be spiritually enslaved. The communication device in Marcus's hand came alive with urgent messages. Human ships throughout the Empire were reporting the same phenomenon. Velthari citizens were beginning to question Imperial authority for the first time in centuries. Some were even resisting the summons to the gathering. The dampening fields are working faster than we predicted, Marcus said. Your people are waking up. Zara felt torn between relief and terror. If Marcus was telling the truth, then her people were being freed from spiritual slavery. But it also meant that everything she had believed about her divine right to rule was false. "What about us?" she asked. "If we attend the gathering, will the Almnarch be able to drain us?" Yes. Your psychic sensitivity is too high to be protected by standard dampening fields. But me? Marcus smiled grimly. Humans have been preparing for psychic warfare for 200 years. I have mental training and technological augmentations that make me effectively immune to psychic attack. Then you will come with me. Zara, no. It is too dangerous. If you are immune, you can protect me. And I need to see this for myself. I need to confront the being I have worshipped my entire life. 3 days later, the royal transport approached the sacred moon. Zara watched through the viewports as other ships converged from across the empire. But something was wrong. Instead of the usual formations flying in perfect harmony, the vessels moved independently. Some ships had broken formation entirely, and several had turned back toward their home systems. "They are choosing not to come," Zara whispered. "My people are choosing to disobey divine command." The gathering took place in the Temple of Eternal Light, a massive crystal structure that amplified psychic energy. As Zara entered with Marcus beside her, she saw hundreds of her people looking nervous and uncertain instead of their usual serene devotion. When Omnarch Thulvanos appeared, Zara gasped. The being she had always seen as magnificent and godlike now looked diminished. His form flickered between the idealized divine appearance and something else. Something darker and more alien. "My faithful children," the Omnarch's voice boomed. But it lacked its usual absolute authority. "Today we face a great crisis. Enemies have infiltrated our empire, poisoning your minds against your divine father." Murmurs of dissent rippled through the crowd. Zara had never heard anyone question the Omnarch before. "To purify our realm, I must draw upon your spiritual essence directly. Do not fear. Your sacrifice will preserve our eternal empire." The Omnarch raised his arms, and Zara felt the familiar pull of psychic connection. But instead of the warm, comforting presence she had always experienced, she felt something hungry and alien trying to force its way into her mind. Around her, people began to scream. The Omnarch was not gently drawing spiritual energy. He was ripping it from them by force, killing dozens of his own subjects to feed his desperate need for power. "Now you see," Marcus said quietly beside her. His mind remained completely untouched by the psychic assault. "This is what your god really is." The Omnarch's true form began to emerge as his stolen power returned. Not the idealized Velthari deity, but something ancient and terrible. A creature of pure hunger that had been wearing the shape of divinity like a mask. "Guards!" Zara called out. "Protect the people." But the guards were also beginning to resist. Free of psychic compulsion for the first time in their lives, they could see the truth of what was happening. Some moved to shield civilians instead of enforcing the Omnarch's will. The false god noticed, Marcus standing calm and untouched in the chaos. "You," he snarled. "Human, you have done this." "Not just me," Marcus replied. "All of humanity. We have been planning this liberation for longer than you can imagine." The Omnarch reached out with devastating psychic force, trying to crush Marcus's mind. But the attack simply bounced off, reflected back upon its sender. For the first time in 3,000 years, the being that had ruled the Velthari Empire felt pain. And in that moment of vulnerability, something else began to manifest in the temple. Shapes of light that Zara almost recognized, ancient and powerful. Rising from the genetic memories of her people, the true gods of the Velthari were returning. The ancient spirits materialized slowly, like memories becoming real. Zara recognized them from the oldest stories her grandmother had told her as a child, tales so old they seemed like myths. These were the original Velthari gods, beings of pure light and wisdom who had guided her people before the Omnarch's arrival. The false god emperor recoiled as the true deities manifested. "Impossible," he snarled. "I consumed you eons ago. You are nothing but echoes." "Echoes have power when enough people remember," said the largest spirit, its voice like crystalline wind chimes. "And our children have been remembering, freed from your poisonous influence." Zara watched in amazement as the Omnarch's stolen form began to unravel. Without the constant flow of psychic energy from his enslaved subjects, his 3,000-year deception was collapsing. The magnificent divine appearance melted away, revealing the truth beneath. The creature that had ruled the Velthari Empire was ancient and alien, like a massive parasitic insect made of shadow and hunger. Its true form was so horrible that several people in the temple collapsed just from looking at it. "You see now what has been feeding on your people," Marcus said calmly. "This thing conquered your original gods by pretending to be one of them. It has been slowly draining the life, creativity, and free will from your entire civilization." The parasite lashed out desperately, trying to reclaim control over the minds in the temple. But the psychic dampening fields had done their work too well. Instead of obedient subjects, it faced people who could think for themselves. "I gave you order," the creature shrieked. "I gave you purpose. Without me, you are nothing but chaos and confusion." "We gave ourselves those things," Captain Velcor said, stepping forward with his weapon drawn. "We just forgot how to choose them freely." The Omnarch turned its attention to Marcus, sensing that the human was somehow central to its downfall. It gathered all its remaining power and launched a psychic attack that should have destroyed any living mind. Marcus did not even flinch. The attack hit him and simply stopped, as if striking an impenetrable wall. Then something impossible happened. The psychic energy began flowing backward, forcing the parasite to experience every moment of pain it had inflicted over 3 millennia. Every drained mind, every stolen dream, every suppressed thought came flooding back into the creature that had caused them. How? The Omnarch gasped, writhing in agony. "Humans have been preparing for beings like you for centuries," Marcus replied. "We have encountered psychic parasites before, in the depths of space and the ruins of dead civilizations. We learned from those encounters." The ancient Velthari spirits moved closer to Marcus, and Zara held her breath. These were beings older than stars, divine entities that had shaped her people's civilization. What would they do to the human who would help destroy their empire? The largest spirit stopped directly in front of Marcus and slowly, deliberately bowed its radiant head. "We thank you, Liberator," it said. "You have done what we could not do ourselves. You have freed our children." One by one, the other ancient gods followed suit, bowing to the human who had sacrificed everything to break the chains that bound an entire species. Zara felt tears streaming down her face. Marcus had not conquered her people. He had liberated them from a conquest so old they had forgotten. It was not natural. The parasitic Omnarch made one final desperate attempt to escape, trying to transfer its consciousness to the nearest available host. But as it reached for Zara's mind, Marcus stepped between them, and the creature's essence struck his. Psychic defenses and simply dissolved. 3,000 years of tyranny ended in silence. In the aftermath, as the ancient spirits began to fade back into memory and the survivors of the gathering slowly recovered, Zara found herself standing beside the man she had thought she knew. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now your people rebuild," Marcus said. "Without psychic slavery, without forced unity, without anyone telling them what to think or feel or believe. It will be chaos. For a while, yes. Freedom usually is chaotic at first. But your people are strong, Zara. They will figure out how to be themselves again." She looked at him carefully. "What about us?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I was supposed to disappear after the mission was complete. Return to Earth, receive a new assignment, vanish into the next operation. But I told you the truth. I cannot live in a universe without Princess Zarathis in it. He turned to face her fully. The question is whether you can live in a universe with Commander Marcus Chun in it. Knowing everything you know about what I have done, Zara thought about the lies, the deception, the systematic destruction of everything she had believed. She thought about her people's freedom, bought with Marcus's willingness to sacrifice his own mission parameters. She thought about the fact that he had chosen love over duty, even when it meant betraying his own species' plans. You were supposed to kill me, she said. Yes, but you chose to find another way. Yes, even though it meant your mission would take longer, would be more dangerous, would risk everything. Yes, Zara stepped closer to him. Do you know what that tells me about who you really are? What? It tells me that Marcus Chun the spy and Marcus Chun the husband are the same person. Someone who cares more about protecting people than completing missions. Someone who chooses the harder path when it means preserving life instead of taking it. Marcus reached for her hands, and she let him take them. I love you, Zara. That was never part of the deception. I know. She smiled through her tears. Because if it had been part of the deception, you would not have ruined your own mission to protect me. Around them, her people were beginning to leave the temple, walking out into a freedom they had not experienced for 3,000 years. Some looked frightened, some looked confused, but many looked more alive than Zara had ever seen them. We will have to build something new, she said. Not an empire, but a confederation of free worlds. Not subjects, but citizens who choose their own leaders. That sounds like something worth building together. Zara looked at the human who had destroyed her old world and made a new one possible. The spy who had become a husband, the enemy who had become a liberator, the man who had taught an entire civilization the difference between worship and love. Yes, she said. Together. In the distance, human ships were decloaking throughout the system, but they came not as conquerors, but as allies. The war that might have been became instead the beginning of something unprecedented, a partnership between species built on truth instead of deception, on choice instead of compulsion, on love instead of fear. The gods had bowed to Marcus Chun not because he was superior, but because he had shown them what mortals could accomplish when they chose compassion over conquest. It was, Zara thought, a very human thing to do.